You're listening to Atlanta Baseball Talk, your weekly podcast for all things Atlanta Braves.
Welcome to show number 270. Today is Sunday, July 13th, 2014, and my name is Steve. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Hammy and Kurt, and guys, let's get to it. In tonight's show, we'll talk about what to make of the last 2 weeks. We'll hand out our team grades at the All-Star break. But first, guys, the mystery, the intrigue, the Dan Uggla suspension. All right, so guys, here's the deal. So I wake up this morning and I'm looking on Twitter and I see like some references to Uggla and it seems weird. And so I go to DOB's timeline and see that Phil Gosselin has been called up seemingly overnight. And, during the night, Saturday, Sunday morning. And DOB is theorizing that maybe Uggla's going to be DFA'd or released because there's been no corresponding move mentioned. And then Twitter was really fun for a couple hours. And there was a great hashtag with something like, why is Uggla suspended or something like that. A lot of funny stuff out there. And so it ends up being that it's a one-game suspension. For all stories are that like he was late, although the team was saying it was an internal matter, they're not going to talk about it. So, I'm taking that on face value. I assume that Uggla showed up late and it probably wasn't the first time and they got sick of it. So, guys, what do you think happens to Uggla? Let's just make some predictions on this. When is he gone? And or is he going to be DFA'd? Is he going to be traded? When's it going to be by? Hammy, what do you think?
I think he's going to be DFA'd by the end of the All-Star break.
Whoa, really?
I think he is. I mean, I just why do it? We can't play with the 24-man roster. I mean, now is the time. It feels like now is the time to just do it.
So my counter to that, Hammy, is they have waited so long, and we have been playing with a 24-man roster so long with the thin wisp of a hope that so many second basemen are going to go down that someone's going to trade for him so long as we pay for 80% of his contract, that why waste the last 2 weeks before the trade deadline? Like, to me, he's going to get DFA, but it's going to be the first week of August. Curtis, What do you think?
I think it's looming. I think that rationale seems more practical, Steve. I mean, Brandon Phillips goes down, so I'm sure they've been lobbing lots of offers at the Reds to try and get him over there. But at some point, what does it matter? They're going to eat a lot of that money, so they're not getting anything in return for him other than maybe saving a couple mil. So Mark Bradley wrote about it today. It's just like, it's time to cut loose. That you're eating the $19 million. You might as well accept the fact that you're eating $19 million and get somebody on this roster, whether it's Gosselin or whoever it might be, that can contribute as opposed to playing a man down as they've done basically all season long.
Yeah.
But the only thing that I cling to is if they really can move him and save, $3 million this year, $5 million next year. I mean, that's a piece. It may be that bullpen piece that we need at the trade deadline that, there may be no money left after the Santana signing at the beginning of the year.
Nobody's taking him.
Well, look, I understand there's the whole nobody's taking him thing.
Yeah.
And that it's all silly. But maybe.
Maybe. But would you be willing to give up 2 weeks of this? So we're in next, and I think you're going to bring this up later, just where we are in the race with how many, how we project to win. But would you give up 2 weeks of this season for that maybe?
That it's silly, like, not to have someone like Gosselin who could be a actual late inning replacement and a bat off the bench.
Is carrying Uggla for 2 more weeks worth the risk of you in this tight race of not making the playoffs? Because maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think you hang on for 2 more weeks. We've done it for so long.
Fair enough.
All right, guys, so let's move on to news on the actual field. So last Sunday's loss to the Diamondbacks marked the end of the 9-game win streak. That was followed by 3 very disheartening losses to the Mets. We won the 4th game, a loss in Game 1 to the Cubs, and then the Braves took the final 2 games, scoring double digits yesterday and today. So, guys, if we were starting to sort of be ready last week to say that 9-game win streak was potentially kind of sort of the start of the turnaround, then what does this week tell us? Where are we? My God, I'm tired of this question, but where is this team? Hammy, start us off.
Well, I was certainly disheartened in the middle of once we lost that third game to the Mets. It felt horrible, and we were just losing in every horrible way. The bullpen was really letting us down. Freddie was letting us down. Freddie G, not Freeman. And I thought it was total bunk. I have to say that winning these last two games in the fashion that we did and taking one from the Mets, you look back and we went 3-4 this week, which is you would want to do better, but I don't feel as bad. It takes a little bit of the edge off the 9-game winning streak because we were playing the same level of competition. But I think you have to look at it over the longer stretch, and over the last 2 weeks, we're 12-4, right? And that's great. I'll take that for every 2-week stretch that we can. And heading into the All-Star break, I'm happy with that.
And scoring 21 runs our last two games again takes the edge off some for me.
It sure does. It sure does, because otherwise it was we had scored 14 up to that point during the whole week, and so getting less. To make 35 for the week, it looks like a good week when really it was just the last two games.
Do you put anything more to these losses against really bad teams? I mean, I know we talked about this last week, but is there any... We allowed ourselves to give more credence or even credible credence to 9-game win streak because it's 9 games, at least I did, and we didn't allow the competition to creep into that. So do we not allow the competition to creep into the losses either? Or are they worse because of the competition that we've faced?
So I was willing to, because of the fashion of some of those wins and it's still major league rosters and so on, I was willing to see all the good in that 9-game win streak. The losing against bad teams this week, I don't know. Kurt, to me, this was all just about what this team does and doesn't do over the course of the season, as we've seen, right? If you're going to stop hitting home runs and you're not going to get hits with men in scoring position, you're not going to win. Whether we're playing, the Nationals and the Dodgers, Giants, Cardinals, or the Mets and the Cubs. I mean, it's just not going to work, Game 1 against the Cubs, 3 for 15 with runners in scoring position. Game 2, 6 for 9. Game 3, 5 for 11. I mean, the team needs to hit when there's opportunities because otherwise they're just not going to do it, So I don't know if I answered your question, but to me it's almost... It's kind of been irrelevant for this team if it's good competition or bad. They either execute or they don't.
You gotta hope, and we've said this, a couple of weeks running, that they start their 9-game winning streak when we get to the when and if we get to the postseason. You gotta hope that our streakiness is allowed for by the Nationals and everybody else, that we can get into the postseason, and then you gotta hope we hit a streak because we are not going to become at this point, and this is going on a couple seasons now. We're not a consistent team.
Yeah, and. And during the 9-game win streak, the bullpen was really, really consistent, right? And during our losses this week, the bullpen was leaky. With a leaky bullpen and an offense that is somewhat bottom half of the league, it's not a winning combination. When we've seen it, I mean, that awful 6-8 week stretch after the 17-7 start, a lot of those problems were around the bullpen. I mean, the offense was obviously a huge problem, but the bullpen was a big contributor to it. And that all sort of got fixed. When Carpenter went away, we weren't using Avilan that much. That 9-game win streak was beautiful, and the bullpen gave up like 2 earned runs over 24 innings or whatever it was. But it wasn't like that this week, and we can't survive that kind of thing.
Well, it's exactly, those are the three things: that hitting with runners in scoring position, the bullpen, and I talked about it last week that during that stretch also the starters did not give up a bunch of home runs, or at least the pitching staff. Well, they gave up 5 home runs in the 4 losses that they had in a row, and some of them were game changing. Obviously, the Goldschmidt one that was really folds into last week, but still a situation where you're kind of going back. It's the same routine that we see when they start to go bad. They can't hit they can't get timely hits, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that to me is a concern that continues to ride with this team. We see how good they can be when all those factors come and join together and create the team that can win 9 games in a row. But I guess it's disheartening to see how quickly they can fall back and play. And to the Braves' credit, Dylan G came back. He always pitches well against the Braves. Arrieta is easily the Cubs' best pitcher right now. What's this? DeGrom is he's a really good pitcher
today too.
And Dice Case pitched pretty well against the Braves too. So, the 4 losses come against those 4 guys. So I guess you can take some credence in the fact that that's just part of it. So, it kind of lingers with me that we see sometimes that these stretches can go, and it's the same pattern every single time.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though. That's what keeps me hanging on about this team this year, specifically around the postseason, is they've got all the pieces. They really can do it. When they put it together, they're really formidable. Excuse me, they're really formidable. So
against anyone.
And right. They hit a hot streak. They could go through the playoffs and do some damage. It's just, can they, piece that all together? And we will see. By the way, Kurt, your phrase "credible credence." I saw that.
I like that. Yes.
And the Fogerty sound-alike was unbelievable. It was really good.
Their second album is clearly the best one.
All right, guys. Before we move on to the team report card, a couple quick announcements. First, as of now, all of our new shows will also be available on our new YouTube channel, which you can find by going out to YouTube and searching for Atlanta Baseball Talk. So go out there, do that, and subscribe. This will just be another great way to ensure that you don't miss any shows. We also have a new Facebook fan page, so go out there and like us. Have a conversation with us out there as well. It's at facebook.com/Atlanta Baseball Talk.
And the old one does not exist anymore.
Right. It's not there, so go out, facebook.com/Atlanta Baseball Talk. Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, so look, as we enter into the All-Star break, let's give our grades on the team at this point in the season. Hammy, let's start with Freddie Gonzalez. What grade do you give Freddie so far this season?
I think Freddie gets high marks for keeping us competitive in the face of all these injuries. And I think off the field, with the pieces that are in his toolbox or whatever that are given to him, I think he does a pretty good job. I mean, he didn't pick BJ. He didn't pick Uggla, but he's trying to do the best with them. I think in-game experience, he gets lower marks, though. The way he handles the bullpen, he's some head scratchers. He pulls starters too soon. So I give him a B. So good off the field, not so good on the field.
Curtis?
I give him a C. And part of me thinks that's a little high, and part of me thinks that might be a little low. They are in first place by a half a game. They did lose all those starting pitchers.
I think they're tied for first.
I saw. Oh, did Washington?
Washington won.
Okay, maybe I saw that. But I think the team is playing under their capabilities. I think that this team can be a lot better than they are. I think they should be a lot better than they are. He does stuff that makes Steve's heads explode, like continually batting BJ at the top of the lineup, and the bullpen usage really just continues to befuddle. So, I think that in portions he's done a good job. Other places he's just really not a good manager.
Yeah, look, I have to start with we're in first place, 9 games over 500, 3 starting pitchers going down. You're saddled with Uggla and BJ. On the other hand, I got to go to game 1 against the Mets this week. We've just gotten the lead. It's the 8th inning. You've got a righty, a switch hitter, and a lefty coming in. So, of course, you bring in the worst piece in the bullpen in Avilan. I mean, I still am angry about it. I just can't. And this is easy and cheap, but if you bring in Simmons, who didn't even pitch the day before, or Walden, who had pitched the day before, but he pitches on consecutive days, and, of course, really is our 8th inning guy, and we win that game like we absolutely should have, the week could have gone very differently. That was really a heartbreaker. And you've got to be sitting on that bench going, Avilan, really? I mean, if everyone watching the game was thinking it, the players are thinking it too. They know how guys are doing.
Yeah.
So, Hammy, it gets to your point about his management of the bullpen, his management of the rotation sometimes in terms of leaving guys in too long. I mean, I think about that Boston series, just letting guys stay out there to die. Freddie seems overmatched sometimes.
He does. Or he seems really stuck to a bad philosophy about how to do things.
Yeah.
Very stubbornly bad.
And I know
that all that does not lend itself for a postseason success. I'm sorry. I mean, if
I agree.
He's overmatched. He's overmatched by good managers.
I think he is too. So I give Freddie a B-. A lot has gone right. The players seem to really like him. I just read a Freddie Freeman interview a couple days ago, which is really funny. We tweeted about it. And he just talked about what a great manager is and lets us do our thing, and everyone really responds to him and all that. It's like Bobby. You have to give that some credit, but B- for Freddie. All right, Kurt, let's move on to the offense. What's your grade for the offense this year?
I give it a C+, mainly because of just their inconsistency. We see them go through stretches where they can light up the scoreboard like they did the last couple of days in Chicago, but boy, do they go through stretches where they're not good at all. And it's just in the National League, they're pretty pedestrian. They're down at the bottom in a lot of different categories, except in Ks. Middle of the road in hits, middle of the road in batting average, but 13th, 14th in runs, 14th in RBI, 11th in slugging, et cetera, et cetera. I don't need to go through all these, but it's just an offense that, again, you look at the pieces and you think that this can be a really exciting offense, and yet you just have these, and beyond BJ, and there's a lot of drop off. Chris Johnson, people like that are not performing up to the numbers that they had last year. Not that we expected that, but it's a pretty healthy drop off. He apparently just needs to play in Chicago every single week. So,
I tell you.
I give it a C+.
Yeah, and just to add to some of those stats, 10th in on base, 15th in 2 outs with runners in scoring position. I mean, we've seen it. The offense can kill, but also it can be really ugly at times, inconsistent. So, Ham, I guess I jumped in front of you, but I'm giving the offense a C-. How about you?
Wow. So, for me, starting if B were average, I think individually you do give high marks to Freeman, especially earlier in the season. Justin, when he's doing well, and if you look at his book of work over the season, he's had a good first half. Listella, Gaddis, I think, has been great, and fewer opportunities than Freddie and Justin. So I think individually there's some stars and some good spots this season. But really lower marks for everyone sort of across. Underperforming seasons or just pedestrian seasons for some, disappointing seasons, and then just the general, as a unit, that unpredictability and those funks. And to be a professional team, I just don't think you can do that. You're not gonna succeed. You should not be able to have to go through funks like that. So I give them a B- overall. I think below average and below expectations.
All right, Hammy, how about the starting pitching?
So I think the starting pitching is the bright spot of the team this year overall. I mean, obviously, all the story is all about losing 3 starters and then coming back and really doing well as overall. I mean, I think that obviously Santana has struggled, to say the least, lately. Minor has, but Tehran, generally awesome. He's a great number 1. Harang has just been amazing. And Wood is great. So I give them a B+. There's still some dark spots or where we have bad days with Minor, he gives up 6 runs and we win.
Like he planned.
But I think they're the best part of the team right now, starting pitching.
Curtis?
I give it a B that pushes up to a B plus with extra credit for the fact that they lost the 3 starters. To have still been able to cobble together the success that they've had. Chip Carey had a great line, of all people, the other day when somebody said, "Oh, would you have expected at the All-Star break that Aaron Harang would have the most wins on the team or tied for the most wins on the team?" And Chip Carey said, "Would you even expected that Aaron Harang would still be on the team at the All-Star break, let alone?"
It's funny and true.
Yes.
So for what they've been able to do, it's pretty extraordinary that they've got this depth. Hale can consistently, when he comes in, you have faith that he'll put a good start together. Wood's been really good. So, and Floyd when he was there was brilliant. So, and that was a couple of those are to Frank Wren's credit that he certainly, which we were not even going into the front office in this, but the couple of moves that he made to help solidify this, and the Santana one is probably the weakest of the group. But I give him a B plus.
Yeah, so the starting pitchers are 5th in ERA in the National League, 7th in WHIP, 5th in FIP, which is like fielding independent ERA. So they've carried us at times. There's no doubt. I mean, that 17-7 start was really all about the starting pitching. Right, but Hammy, you mentioned it. There have been some ugly runs. Most of Minor, about half of Santana. I mean, as amazingly good as Santana was that first month, God, all of May and some of June was just ugly. So I give him a B because it's been great and it's been not so good. But to your point, Hammy, I think they're really the strongest part of the team, and I think that they'll help carry us again in the second half. All right, so Curtis, let's stay with pitchers and go to relievers. What do you got for them?
I give it a C. There's so many good parts to it, and then there's just a couple of really glaring bad parts to it. Obviously, Kimbrel is still brilliant. Walden, when he's on, is the best setup man in baseball. Simmons has been such a delight, such a surprise. But, you still have to deal with Carpenter. You still have to deal with Avalon, which I'm wondering how much longer he's even going to be on the Braves.
Oh, God, his appearance was so ugly today. I agree. I don't know that he's going to be here much longer.
I give it a C. And that might even be low, maybe C plus. There's definitely strong components to it, and maybe it's more Freddie's fault that we have some issues with the bullpen. A C plus, I'll say.
Hammy, how about you?
Yeah, I'm a little bit higher. I think that there's been some high marks for Simmons and Kimbrel, Barbaro, Walden. But then there's just some stinkers out there, and Freddie puts them out there, and so we get to judge them. I would say a B minus. And I think that they're like the offense. They're streaky. There's a lot of good individual pieces. Sometimes we don't use them, or they're not manifested at their best, their talents. But they're still good. They're not. I mean, they've been bad lately, but they're not. They're still a strength.
Ham, I like your use of the word stinker. It makes me think like we're in a Brady Bunch episode. So the relievers are 4th in ERA, 7th in WHIP, 1st in FIP. Look, no one's been completely and totally lights out. Like when I look at the bullpen, there's kind of like 3 tiers. There's the top tier, which, Kurt, you mentioned it. It's Kimbrel, Walden, and Simmons, who have been really, really good, but they can falter from time to time. You've got that middle tier, which is Varvaro, Wood, and Hale, who've been pretty good. And then there's the bottom tier, which is Avalon and Carpenter, basically. Right? So they were key to some of the really bad period, that under 500 period after the 17-7 start. Although when they're on, they help provide that 9-game win streak, right? So I give them a B. I think that there's more good than bad there. Carpenter, I don't think is long for the bullpen. Avilon, I don't think is long for the bullpen. I think that some pieces will come at the trade deadline, and it will only be better. So, guys, let's sort of wrap up the first half with the Braves are 9 over 500 for the first 95 games. So let's start with this. Do you think that the team can go 9 over 500 in the remaining 67 games? That would be 39-28. And so that would be a finish of 91 wins. And is that enough to win the East, Hammy?
I think they can do that. and I think it's enough to win the East. I think it's going to be close, but the Nats just Zimmerman is injured going in the All-Star break. I know it's a lot of precautionary stuff. They still have their demons there, so I think it's going to be a race to the end. I think we can do it.
Which Zimmerman? I missed that.
Jordan, the pitcher. The pitcher.
Okay, yeah. I missed that. Yeah, okay, I'll take that. Not that I wish that on anybody, but it's going to happen. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Curtis, How about you?
Yes, on both. I think that that's not expecting too much of the Braves, and I'm not sold on the Nationals still to this day, any more than that they can win a ton more games than we can. So, I buy that.
Yeah, I mean, I think they can go 39-28, but I don't think 91 is going to be enough to win. I think it's going to be closer to 95, which would be going 43-24, and I don't know. I know it's a 4-game difference, but all of a sudden going from 30s to the 40s just seems so much bigger and tougher.
Wow. So you think the Nationals are going to win 95 games?
I think they could. I mean, Harper has come back and has done nothing, but he's not going to remain completely ineffective at the plate for the rest of the season. Worth is heating up again. That pitching, I mean, my God, their starting pitchers are still so good. So, yeah, I think that it's going to take more than 91. I really do. All right, guys, so let's move on to Shot in the Dark, our prediction for the week. But let's check back on last week. So, Kurt, you predicted Santana would go 8 innings, give up 2 earned, and 7 strikeouts. He went 7 innings, 4 earned, and 4 strikeouts.
Win.
Yeah,
missed it by this much.
Exactly. Hammy, speaking of, you predicted 4 earned total.
On average.
Yeah, exactly.
Did I not say that?
4 total earned runs for Minor over his 2 starts. He gave up 8.
Yes.
Over his 2 starts.
He did.
And I predicted that Minor would give up 5 home runs over his 2 starts this week, somehow not taking into account that, he'd be pitching at Citi Field, where really no one can give up that many home runs. So he gave up only 1 over the course of the week. So, guys, frankly, we were all so off this week, no one can win.
It's a real stinker week.
Yeah, boy. Woo. So, Kurt, you remain in the lead for July with 1 win. Hammy and I are stuck at 0. All right, so let's check in on our listener-submitted Shots in the Dark for the past week. Brett Mansfield on Twitter said that Mike Minor doesn't give up a home run this week. He gave up 1. Michael Lindbaum on Facebook said that Chris Johnson would bat 150 with 12 strikeouts. He went 280 and 7 strikeouts. And then our buddy on Twitter, Faux Frank Wren, who for one thing is a great follow on Twitter if you don't follow him, and also is a contributor on the Atlanta Baseball Talk site, has done some great wax pack stuff. Go onto our site and check it out if you haven't seen it. He predicted that a pitcher would homer this week. And sure enough, Mike Minor hit a homer this weekend in Chicago. So very nicely done. FFW, congratulations. So guys, we continue. Please submit your Shots in the Dark, and we will pick our favorite one. We'll track it this week, and we'll discuss it on the show next week. So you can submit them by Twitter, on Facebook, use the hashtag ABTSITD, and, let's do them for the, you can submit All-Star Game ones as well. So get those in tomorrow, or, by Tuesday, if you're going to do that, or do them for the games this weekend and get them in before Friday first pitch. And that's the deal. So, guys, let's do our Shots in the Dark for this week. Curtis, what do you got?
Kimbrel gets the save in the All-Star game.
I like it. Hammy, how about you?
Same spirit. Freeman homers in the All-Star game. We could both be a winner, Curtis.
God, that really would be great.
Make it so.
And us both being winners?
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. I'm going to talk about the games this coming weekend. My Shot in the Dark is that the bullpen gives up no runs this weekend against Philadelphia. So speaking of, guys, let's move on to the week ahead. But let's start with the All-Star game first. So just easy question. Who wins, Hammy?
American League.
You are a monster.
He lives in Boston. What do you expect?
I'm objective.
Kurt, I mean, Hammy, why do you think? What about it? I think the National League's going to win, and I think it's because the starting pitching is just too much. What do you think? Why the American League?
I think they have good starting pitching too, and I think the offense is better. I think they're just going to thwack it. I think it's going to be a score-a-thon.
All right. Curtis, how about you?
Of course, the National League is going to win. 3-2.
Oh, look at you. Yeah, I mean, Hammy, Kershaw, Carpenter, Greinke, Cueto, it's just going to be too much. I'm telling you, the American League's going to get shut down.
All right.
All righty. All right, guys, so only 3 games this week at home against Philadelphia. And looking at the matchups, a little difficult. Let's talk about the Braves starters this weekend first. So Freddie came out today and said that Irvin Santana would get the start on Friday. He also said that he would split up the lefties in some fashion this week. He didn't know, and for the rest of the season, and he didn't know when Tehran was going to pitch. He didn't know how many extra days off he wanted to give him. But my guess is that it's going to be Santana, Tehran, Minor, Harang, Wood. And frankly, Wood should go before Minor, but I bet that Freddie goes with the more seasoned guy and Minor goes third. But we do know who the Phillies starters are going to be. So game 1's going to be A.J. Burnett with his 3.83 ERA. Cole Hamels goes next with a 2.93 ERA. And Kyle Kendrick, who we finally figured out the last time we played him a couple weeks ago, and he got knocked around by the Nationals today, giving up 5 earned. He has a 4.62 ERA. So, guys, 3 games. What do you think's going to happen, Hammy?
3-0. Win them
I
all.
like it. Curtis?
2-1.
Yeah, I say 3-0 as well. Sort of syncing up with my shot in the dark. The bullpen gives up no earned. And, yeah, we just beat the Phillies into submission and continue to give them the answer to should we be sellers or not. At the
when do they start dumping pieces? And is it better that they keep pieces so when they play the Nationals they're a better team, or?
Well, I just think it's inevitable. I think Papelbon may be gone, Hamels may be gone. They're going to try to get Cliff Lee to start so that maybe they can move him. There's going to be a lot of pieces moved from the Phillies.
Utley.
Yeah, Utley's a possibility. That's right. All right, guys, that's the show. So please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as in iTunes so that you don't miss any of our weekly shows. We're also on Stitcher. As always, check us out at AtlantaBaseballTalk.com for past shows, to check out our blogs, and to post in our comments section. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at ATL Baseball Talk and to like us on Facebook. Thanks again for listening, everyone, and go Braves!
Thanks for listening to Atlanta Baseball Talk, your weekly podcast for all things Atlanta Braves. To find new shows, to post in our forum, or to send a comment, please visit us at AtlantaBaseballTalk.com.
Had to admit the